I guess all I can say to begin with is, wow, we did it. We took the COVID postponed national conference and packed it into a 2-day Zoom conference. We survived, not without some stress, but I think there's a lot of good information that was shared. And I want to extend my personal thanks to everybody, presenters, reactors, attendees, colleagues from ARCH, and folks who have stepped in to help us with the technology and note-taking and others. It was a big team effort with everyone being part of the team. Reflecting on what happened over the last 2 days, we had 3 presentation tracks really related to the key research findings that were the origins of this summit. And they were aligning research agendas with research recommendations, research on respite outcomes and access to respite, practice and evaluation research, and then Dr. Washington's presentation, which was a sole entry in a track that focused on using the expert panel framework, which was the one study funded specifically for that purpose by the Health Foundation of Western and Central New York. So we covered a lot of territory, and I'd like to just take a few minutes to think back on a few things that we learned. And some of those things that we learned, I think, transcend which track they may have appeared in to begin with. With respect specifically to the first track, we learned that from Mr. Nagorski that the Adult Day Services is working to standardize their model. This is something that we saw across a variety of different presentations, that knowing what it was that we're studying, they're developing a research agenda on their own. It's certainly supportive of and ancillary to the agenda that ARCH is promoting, and we certainly support that. Some points in those presentations relating to the necessity of respite as both a service to the care receiver or caregiver rather, but also providing an opportunity for other services, including health services, to be delivered to the care receiver. So certainly a legitimate area for interest. Dr. Miller's one of my favorite, and I always try to find something new to carry away, a little nugget that I can use as if I had invented it myself from Dr. Miller's presentation, and that's the notion of retrospective necessity. I really like that term. It says a lot, and I think it's one that we can weave into our future conversations about respite research. Dr. Whitmore discussing the break exchange. One of the things that is I think interesting about this initiative is not only is it international, not only is it intended to develop an evidence base, but one of the things that it does that I find quite interesting and perhaps unique is to engage and to gather as partners in that process service providers from around the globe who can become, in Kim's words, research ready. That is, to begin to appreciate or develop a greater appreciation for the value of research findings on their practice models, and to be, if not immediately willing, at least increasingly willing to engage with researchers to provide the necessary data and research platforms. So I think that's all part and parcel of the overall mission here. Diving a little deeper into the weeds, Dr. Gogler reminded us, or I guess he put forth for the first time in this discussion, but we've heard it before in other venues, about the over-reliance on deficit-oriented outcomes. That certainly came up again in our group discussion just now concluded. about really focusing or perhaps changing the focus or including within the focus of outcome measures strengths-based outcome measures and measures that offer more of a sense of optimism in things improving or that they have improved, rather simply than looking for the absence of a bad outcome that doesn't happen. Those things are very, very difficult to measure. They're elusive. And frankly, it strikes me that it's more fun to look at things that reflect well on a research endeavor or a service endeavor. So I took that away. One of the things that I found very interesting from Dr. Sabaka's presentation, again, these are just key findings. There's a lot that I don't have time to talk about, but we'll include in the report that we generate from this process, is that, and she said it within the context of medically fragile caregivers or care receivers, but it's not exclusive to that treatment group, and that is that respite is not always for rejuvenation or relief, that it may in some cases be an essential service to avoid a crisis or an acute challenge, health challenge in the case of a child with that's medically fragile. So it's there were a lot of things across these different presentation tracks. Again, some that crossed lines of demarcation with respect to the construct of the particular session. But I do think some of the bigger items that we need to face going forward are respite in the age of COVID. That was a recurrent theme. It's difficult to envision not having to modify our definitions, certainly not having to restructure our service models, our respite models in order to accommodate provision of services during the era of COVID. So that's certainly a big one. Another recurrent theme, again, the requirement or the benefit of including more qualitative in addition to quantitative methods and mixed method studies. We've seen that time and time again. Let's see, the workforce issues, which is a big one. The need for expanding the workforce to deal not just with access, but with competence. Again, Dr. Caprio talked about this across the entire lifespan. So, you know, the lifespan respite grantees are supported by ARCH. It's one of the main underpinnings of the work that's done by ARCH. And certainly to see it reflected in the research projects is always a good thing. Continued reference to caregiver-centered and family-centered respite as opposed to the more singular efforts at providing caregiver relief. I think that again, we'll gather these thoughts together and provide a greater synthesis in the report that will come out. And I'm really looking forward to that process. On the immediate future, which is really kind of the next steps immediately to follow, we will be digesting and reflecting on the results of the summit. There are hundreds of entries in the chat box that all need to be either categorized or acted upon one way or another, routed to responders or organized by topic and presentation in order for us to get the most information from all of you participants as we try to make summary statements about the results of the summit. We'll certainly review the recommendations from the breakouts. Those are two current right now in my own head to try to isolate as examples, but certainly we heard several, and I'm sure there are many more that will emerge from the notes and the recordings. This will all result in the production of a final report on the summit, which will be after approval by ACL, distributed for consumption. And then as we move forward from the culmination of the summit process, as we've said a couple times throughout the last day or two, we are convening a committee for the advancement of respite research. Many of the members of this committee are folks who you've heard over the last 2 days, including some members of the original expert panel. So it's an austere group, I think, and we have a number of things that we're asking them to do that relate specifically to the issues and questions that have been raised today. And again, they'll be written up in greater detail as part of the report. This work will all begin soon, if not immediately. And of course, we'll continue to work with ACL on the establishment of the evidence base for respite. So our plate is full, in large part due to your contributions there too. Again, we're grateful for that. Again, I want to thank everybody for participating. I want to remind you of something I said yesterday morning, which is if you're interested in future follow-up roundtables, if you're interested in joining the Research Consortium, if you're not already a member, please enter your name and email in the chat box and tell us. That's one of those things we'll be sorting out and routing to particular responders. And I do want to, before I turn it back to Jill for any final comments she might have, I want to beg you, I'm not above groveling, I want to beg you to please, at the end of the session today, complete the Summit Evaluation Survey. This is our first ever summit. I had a good time. I think it was pretty good. I think we could polish it up a little bit, but we need your input on that. And I'd like to think that we could have another 1 or 2 of these in the future after we've got some more studies to talk about and we've put our thoughts together with respect to this summit. So please complete the Summit Evaluation Survey and let us know your interests in remaining connected either through future roundtables or by joining the consortium. Anyone have questions of me in the last minute or two before I ask Jill if she has any closing comments? All right then, Jill.
Thank you so much, Ray. And I want to thank all of you who stayed with us for 2 full afternoons right up till this very end of the summit, and especially for staying for the roundtable discussions, because it gave us a chance to really hear from all of you, and we really value that. I want to thank all of the ARCH consultants and staff who worked so hard in pulling this together and making it run seamlessly, including Marcia O'Malley with Mindful Media Services, who really kept this going. Thank you again, Marcia. Thank you to Kim for doing an amazing job facilitating this whole event. To Cassandra, Susan for helping with the roundtables, and I hear they went amazingly well from everyone. And to Ray, of course, for always being there to help keep this research consortium work going. And he already pleaded for this, but we'd love to have you join the research consortium, join the break exchange. If you're interested in additional roundtables and want to continue these discussions, we'll be sending out some emails in the next couple of weeks about how you can do that. So thank you all very much, everyone, and look out for the final report that will emerge from this summit sometime in the next couple of months. And as also for the recorded videos, we hope to have those to you in a couple of weeks as well. So thank you, everyone, our international friends too. It was great to see all of you, and have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.